Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of The Right Way Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about physicians' orders and best practices surrounding when to write them, what they should look like, and when to get them signed. So we all know that Medicare requires physician involvement in the plan of care. And this is most commonly reflected by the physician's signature on that plan of care. So while orders aren't specifically required per se, physician's orders can and should be used to serve as evidence of this physician involvement. So payment is dependent on the certification of that plan of care rather than necessarily the order, and can be interpreted literally as meaning under Part A that the physician's signature on the SNF certification is actually adequate evidence of that involvement in the plan of care. And while technically this is accurate, this literal interpretation does actually create more problems than it solves in many cases, because the certification of the plan of care is a little more complex than just the presence of the physician's signature. So the Medicare Benefit Policy Manual in Chapter 15, Section 220 actually provides clarification as to what is required to constitute a complete certification. And so it should include the disciplines, it should include the signature and professional identity of the person establishing the plan of care, diagnoses, long-term goals, the type of treatment, the amount, frequency, and duration of those therapy services. And while a SNF certification does in fact house the physician's signature and the date of that signature, typically if you've seen one, you'll note that physicians don't write long-term goals on there. They sometimes don't even write the therapy disciplines. They just do a general therapy or rehab order, and they certainly don't include the frequency and duration of those services. So we have to be really careful about that. And sometimes we run into the issue of missed documents. So I don't know how many times you've gone to grab or collect documentation for an ADR and you're missing the plan of care, or you're missing a UPSC or an order. And while switching to an EMR system has really helped averted crises in some ways, because we can print out a new evaluation, get a delayed signature and a delayed cert, it certainly doesn't help us when we're also looking at making sure that we provided evidence that the physician was involved at the time of the plan of care was established. We still need to include that as well. So doing all of that really isn't the end of it. So for best practices, what we're advocating and what we'd like you to do as a general rule is write an order anytime you're requesting an eval and treat and there isn't already one given to you by the physician. You want to write an order anytime you are recommending therapy. So following that evaluation, go back, write that clarification order, make sure you're including your frequency, your duration, your CPT codes, all of those basic components of that clarification order. You're going to want to write an order anytime you're changing frequency for any reason. You're going to write an order anytime you're adding modalities that weren't originally ordered at the time of the evaluation. You'll also want to write an order for any time you're adding a diagnosis that may not have been in the plan of care previously. Those kinds of things, or even if the patient is discharged and remains in the facility for more than 24 hours. So typically though, we don't necessarily need a discharge order if the patient, say, is discharged to the hospital unexpectedly, or if they're discharged home expectedly the following day. But it never hurts to have that discharge order present. So when in doubt, go ahead and write it. And you'll always want to defer to your specific facility to see how they like to handle those kinds of discharges with orders. All right, because with doing that, we have the order, we have the plan of care, we have the SNF certification in those Part A instances, and we're covered no matter what happens. So that's always best practice. If you have any other questions, please ask in the comment box below. We'll be happy to help you, or you can shoot us an email at denials@heritage-healthcare.com. Thanks for watching and have a great Wednesday.